All right, let's talk about a really critical but maybe sometimes overlooked piece of the FinOps puzzle, building bridges. We're talking about something called intersecting disciplines, and honestly, it's the absolute key to wrangling the massive complexity and cost of the public cloud. I mean, think about it. Maybe this sounds familiar. Your company dives headfirst into the cloud, and boom, what used to be a pretty predictable expense suddenly becomes this huge, sprawling operational cost. For a lot of organizations, cloud spend feels like a total black box, right? Money goes in, but it's incredibly hard to see where it's all going, let alone what value you're actually getting back. And here's why that happens. The problem is that all these traditional IT functions often operate like their own disconnected islands. You've got your asset management team with one view of the world, your security team with another, and then finance is over there trying to piece it all together with their own spreadsheets. The cloud doesn't necessarily create this problem, but man, it sure can make it a whole lot worse. Each team ends up seeing just one tiny slice of the pie. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dig into why the cloud can create these new silos. Then, we'll look at how FinOps is designed to build bridges. We'll walk through the maturity journey, which is super important. We'll define everyone's role in this, and finally, we'll look at what success really looks like when you get this right. Okay, let's get right into the core of the issue here. The public cloud, for all its wonders, introduces a whole set of new challenges that these traditional siloed teams, well, they just weren't built to handle them on their own. And what's really important to get here is that it's not that these teams aren't doing their jobs. Of course they are. But their responsibilities are already huge. They're covering everything from on-premise servers to massive software contracts. Cloud is this new, super dynamic variable thrown into the mix, and it demands a new level of collaboration that most org structures just aren't set up for. Which naturally brings us to the solution. If the problem is islands, the solution is building bridges. And in the world of FinOps, that bridge actually has a formal name, the Intersecting Disciplines capability. It's a framework built specifically for collaboration. So what is it really? Well, intersecting disciplines is the practice of actively coordinating with all those other functions, like IT asset management, security, and so on. The people in these roles are what the FinOps framework calls allied personas. And here's the key idea. Each of these personas speaks a different language. Security talks about risk, finance talks about budgets, ITAM talks about compliance. The goal isn't to create some new super team, but to create a structured way for everyone to translate their goals and work together on one unified cloud strategy. You know, behind all the fancy frameworks and formal definitions, it really boils down to this one simple, powerful idea, a core principle of FinOps. In the end, success in the cloud comes down to one thing. Teams need to collaborate. That's it. That's the foundation for everything else we're talking about. So how does this collaboration actually happen in the real world? It's definitely not a switch you can just flip overnight. It's a journey, and the FinOps Foundation maps it out perfectly in 3 stages of maturity: crawl, walk, and run. The journey always starts at the crawl stage. This is where each team is in their own world with their own siloed understanding. Then you progress to walk. This is when teams start talking, sharing information, and trying to reconcile their different views of reality. And the goal, the place we all want to get to, is the run stage, where everyone is operating with unified processes and basically speaking the same financial language. Let's really look at that jump from crawl to walk, because it's a big one. In the crawl stage, maybe the asset management team has their list of software licenses, and the cloud team has their list of running instances. The 2 lists never meet. But in the walk stage, they start talking. They actually reconcile that data to create a single source of truth. This is also when those allied personas start getting pulled into business cases, like weighing in on whether it makes sense to bring your own license to the cloud. And that brings us to the run stage, the North Star. This is where everyone is totally in sync. FinOps and all the allied personas share a common language for things like total cost of ownership. They're using shared tools, they have standardized processes, and they can accurately track and report the real savings that come from working together. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so what does this actually mean for the people on the ground? Let's break down the specific jobs for the key players in this whole model, because great collaboration only happens when everybody knows exactly what they're responsible for. And as you can see, every single role here is critical. The FinOps practitioner is like the hub, the facilitator connecting teams and making sure data is accessible. The engineers, they're on the front lines, properly tagging resources and actually building with cost in mind from day one. Finance helps create the guardrails and governance, while leadership points the ship in the right direction. When everyone owns their part, the whole system just works. So, let's talk about the payoff. Why go through all this effort to build bridges and align all these teams? What's in it for the business? Let's get into the real, tangible benefits you see when you reach maturity here. Success isn't some fuzzy concept. It's stuff you can actually see and measure. It looks like consistent reports that everybody in the organization trusts because the data all comes from one shared, agreed-upon source. It looks like coordinated governance, so you don't have the security team's policy accidentally breaking the finance team's budget. And it leads to bottom-line results, like truly optimizing your software licenses and getting way more proactive about security. I mean, check this out. Here is a perfect, concrete example of a key performance indicator. Imagine being able to walk into a meeting with leadership and say, because our IT asset management and FinOps teams are working together, we've cut our on-premises software support costs by 25%. That is a direct, undeniable financial win that proves this whole approach is worth it. And that brings us to the most important point. This entire journey isn't just about saving a few bucks on your monthly cloud bill. It's about achieving something much bigger, a deep, organization-wide understanding of the true total cost of ownership and the return on investment for every single IT service you provide. It's about gaining genuine financial clarity. So that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Using this framework we just walked through, where is your organization right now on its journey? Are you in the crawl stage, with teams still working pretty much in isolation? Are you walking, starting to share that data and collaborate? Or are you in the run stage, with fully unified, awesome processes? Because just knowing where you are is always the first step to getting where you want to go.